then. I said, tell me, do you recall any of the particular movies that you saw when you were working there that were playing? And she mentioned Gone with the Wind, and she mentioned Love is a Many Splendored Thing. And I said, wow, Love is a Many Splendored Thing. I saw that movie with my girlfriend at the time. And I went and bought candy with my girlfriend. And I probably bought the candy from you.
What's your secret?
What's our secret? Oh.
What's our secret? I don't understand.
For being married so long.
Well, let me see. It's called perseverance and survival and love. It's all about having a lot in common.
Yes.
Being able to get through the difficult moments, to have the argument and walk away or walk after him and bang on the door and say, you talk to me, don't you leave, turn your back on me. Okay. But
our friends might see this,
Yeah, it's okay. It's a lesson to them because marriage isn't easy, but it's so rewarding. I would not have survived the death of my granddaughter had it not been for the strong man that I married. And I know that he pretty much feels the same way. Yeah. So when you meet the rough moments, all of those events that happened before that time get you ready for those moments.
That's very good, Mother.
Yeah,
She's really not my mother. I just like to
which
call her
irritates
that.
me to no end. I'm overjoyed that they're keeping the facade. And I hope that what they do behind that facade starts continuing the revitalization of downtown Youngstown.
Robert J. McDermott. I was an usher at the famous Paramount Theatre. I started at the theater in March of 1940, and I left the theater in March of 1941. When I was hired, Jack Hines was the manager of the Paramount at that time. On Sunday, the line was filled with hundreds of people. In those days, Pennsylvania had what they referred to, and still do if they have it, the Blue Laws. Now, what the Blue Laws, none of the theaters would be open on Sunday. So that's why we got that large crowds coming on Sunday. I remember the Andrews sisters, who I believe was their first show, and I believe the name of it was the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B. And it was, like I said, the first time that I ever saw the Andrews sisters at the theater. I received at the time 25 cents an hour, which was a lot of money to me. I was 15 years old at the time, and when I became 16, then I left that was in 1942, 41, and it was there in 40 and 41, like I mentioned before. It was a nice job at the time, and like for a 15-year-old, it was a real nice job. You got to meet a lot of real nice people, a lot of nice people. Right now we see a very good change in Youngstown, where the restaurants, of course, are coming into Youngstown and doing a real good job. And it's something for me, being born and raised in Youngstown, that anything that I can see that's going to develop the downtown area and all, I would really just be so thrilled to see this now after all the years in the past. I remember how crowded the Paramount was, many times standing room only, and the line would form east on Federal Street and north on Hazel Street. Well, as you remember, even anytime anybody went to the theater, you were always in darkness. So we had our little flashlights, and when, like I said, with the great numbers, that we'd have to make sure that we didn't have that too much standing and get even though there was a lot of standing room only, and we had to escort all the patrons down the aisles to their seats. Paramount was one of the finest theaters, I always thought. And I was just really concerned now what you're going to do with it. I know you're going to do a good job. Of course, the best thing that happened in my life was my bride. On October 18th, 1947, we were married. So we've got 65 years coming up in next year. I could be no more elated than I am right now, seeing what's going to happen to my old theater. I know for years I've mentioned, well, I better go in there and get a seat before it's gone. But so that's about all I can say about my years at the theater.
You know, my first memories of movie theaters was when I was in elementary school, maybe second or third grade. There was Rin Tin Tin was a dog, right? And I thought, oh my goodness, without this instrument being here, we wouldn't see. You couldn't see. Well, at that time it was theater, of course, live theater, but that was it. And so that you can imagine what that ushered in terms of entertainment. Regarding the Warner Theater, I got to be an usher. Wow, and had this beautiful uniform. And about a week later, they fired me because I lied about my age to get the job. I told them I was 16 and I was only 15, so they had to let me go. Oh yes, I had this impression from the Paramount. When you walk in, after this short lobby, you look up and you see like 1, 2, 3 balconies. And that was real impressive. And the thing is, they were full of people. In the middle of the movie got shut off, and I think the manager came on stage and announced that Pearl Harbor had just been attacked by the Japanese. And then he went on to tell us how many Japanese airplanes were shot down, which got a hooray from the audience. But that was the first notice that I had that we were at war. The public had been accustomed to that sort of thing happening. It had been going on in Europe for 2 years, and it was just a question of, so it was sort of like, oh, yippee, now we're in it. That was really, I think, the attitude. It's like a football game. We're going to put our team out there and kill some people and get rid of Adolf. When the war started, people had money, and then they used to come downtown in droves. Well, then there was a lot of excitement because the soldiers were coming through town. They came to Sharon, and they were going to be shipped out. And my God, and the women came down and provided entertainment. And it was hot. So that's what was going on downtown. There was all that going on.
Yeah.
Cars double parking and horns blowing, and it was constant. It was exciting.
My name is Chuck Sammarone. I'm the mayor of the city of Youngstown. I can remember probably I'd say 10 years old. A big Sunday was maybe me, 3 or 4 of my friends would walk downtown. Sunday afternoon was to go to a movie at the Paramount Theatre. They used to have like a 1 o'clock or a noontime showing. They would show 2 movies, and I forget the price, but it was pretty reasonable, maybe 60 cents. And we'd watch 2 movies at the Paramount, and then we'd leave the Paramount about, say, 4 o'clock, and then we'd walk over to Jay's Restaurant. They had the best hot dogs anywhere that we were familiar with as 10 years old. And we'd have our hot dogs at Jay's, stay there for about a half hour, then we'd leave Jay's, and then we would go to another movie theater. At that time, I can remember we had the Paramount, we had the Warner Theater, the Palace Theater, and the State Theater. And we would always go down to Paramount, though, because for some reason, as 10-year-olds, we felt their movies were better. But in growing up, then, you know, you got to really like downtown Youngstown. You know, as a young person, you had reasons to go down there, and that was our reason. Then as you got older, then there were other reasons they had downtown Youngstown. You know, there were a lot of stores down here at the time, restaurants and so forth. So, but it started as a young person, the theaters, to go see movies.
A big thing back when I was growing up was going to the movie theaters. That was a big night out. And you'd always, you know, go to some movie, usually Saturday night, and then usually after the movie or before, maybe go, you know, get something to eat. That was a big night.
When I turned 16, I was fortunate in the 3 or 4 real good friends I had. I was the one who bought a car. When I hit 16, I bought a car for $200. Then the big thing then was like on Monday nights, the town was open till 9 o'clock. So me and those same 3 or 4 friends would get in my car and we'd cruise downtown, through town. Then as we got older, then, you know, I went to YSU too. I'm a graduate of YSU, and you know, after graduating, I became a teacher in the city school system. So I was always connected to the city of Youngstown. As a young person, I was born here. You know, then I started working here, and today I ended up being the mayor of the city of Youngstown. The downtown was always a key for me. It still is today. I love the downtown, and in the last few years it's come back. And you know, when I'm done being mayor, it's still going to be a key. I always come downtown to either the restaurants or the university. I'm going to a football game today, so it's always been a key for me. I'm glad that you know, we're going to save the facade of the Paramount, so it's going to save the history. I have 2 sons, and they're Youngstown. They've been here, attending YSU, and you know, we talk about things that I experienced and things that I feel they missed out on. And most of it is some type of history. But the downtown was always vibrant. And because of places like the Lemon Grove, it's going to be vibrant again. That's our history, and that's going to be our future. Our plan was, and I was with City Council at the time when we purchased the building, and working with Mike Morley and the university to do something with the facade, which they're working on a plan. In fact, we got money from the state, brownfield money, so we can, you know, clean up the environmental problems. We tear the building down, not the front of it, the facade. That's going to be saved, which is very, very good, and it's a very good idea. But the remaining part of the building will be torn down. There'll be some spots for some parking. And then I believe the second stage is going to be an amphitheater possibly in the back. And it's going to fit into downtown, what we've been trying to do the last number of years, you know, starting with, you know, the Cavelli Center, which has brought people downtown. So we want to have activity down here so we can draw people to the downtown area. Once you get people started to come downtown, whether it's from the university or the suburbs, if they see what we have, now they're going to continue to come downtown. That's kind of where we got started with a lot of our projects, and hopefully it's where we're going to end up, not just now or next year, but 10 years, 20 years from now. We keep building on that.
My name is Bob Jacobs, born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio, pretty much. Lived for a few years in Maryland, but not that long, and I just returned to Youngstown, and I've been here ever since. I can remember the Paramount very, very well. I mean, that was when theaters were theaters. And I can remember sitting down in the Paramount when the movie would come on, the programming would start, and then they would have a huge curtain that was transparent, and you would see through the curtain, and then the curtain would slowly open to reveal the screen, and then you would settle in to watch the movie, but not until after you saw the newsreel, and then you always saw a cartoon. One movie I really remember going, and I know I saw more than one, but I can't remember all the movies that I saw down there, but one I really remember seeing, because we saw it all as a family, was 10 Commandments. Cecil B. DeMille's 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston. When you see that part about Charlton Heston parting the Red Sea, and he's got his arms out like this, that's impressive on a 25-inch TV at home. But when you're a little kid sitting in a theater and Charlton Heston is 12 feet tall and his arms go like this, I mean, you're actually back in your seat like that, because that's just how kind of impression. And then, of course, you got this surround sound around you, and it's just a whole lot different watching it in a theater than watching it at home. Oh, Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur was another one we saw down there with the chariot race, and I can remember seeing Ben-Hur down there. I can remember seeing the movie Around the World in 80 Days. I can remember. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I went with my mom and dad, and we saw South Pacific. We saw South Pacific downtown at the theater. I can remember the ushers at the Paramount Theater. If I remember correctly, they even had uniforms. They had the waist-length jackets and the slacks, and they had the flashlights. And that was when you could actually go into a movie theater, and they would ask you, where do you want to sit? And you would say, oh, right about the middle somewhere. And then it was, well, how many of you are there? Well, there's 4 of us. And then the usher would follow me, and she'd take her flashlight, and down the aisle she'd go. And the theater was massive. I mean, it's the theaters that they have today, you could put inside the Paramount. The big winding staircase that would go upstairs if you wanted to go to the balcony, if you wanted to sit in the balcony. And a lot of times my sister and I would want to do that because that was a big thrill. Oh boy, we get to sit in the balcony.